Hey everyone, Stephen Bonacore, the Podfather of Gaming here. I have to give you a little intro to this very special episode number 300. I'm here in the editing booth with Joshua. Okay, I'm not really together with him, but he's going to add this into the beginning. We did this episode live on Zoom with about 40 to 50 people who came to listen to us. And I was supposed to record all of that, you know, like what they were talking sometimes with us. And I didn't. It didn't. It got lost. There was an epic failure. So there's going to be a little bit of choppiness in this episode. I apologize for that. But I did my best to make sure with Josh, who does all the editing, to do the cuts so that it seems fairly seamless. But you're not going to hear great voices like Lincoln Damhurst of BGG. You're not going to hear Ray Greenlee and Joshua Bowman and Jeff Anderson of BGG and Scott Brady, noted designer. So I apologize. Oh, and also some people who were there who asked us questions. I have to ask them for them in post. I apologize to all of you. I think the episode still works the way it is. I will try and endeavor to do better next time. Forgive me all. But until next time, listen to this, a very epic episode number 300 of Board Games Insider.
This is Board Games Insider, the podcast that Tom Vasel said would never make it to 10 episodes.
This is Board Games Insider, where Ignacy, president of Portal Games, and Stephen Bonacore, the Podfather of Gaming, discuss hobby board game publishing from the inside, giving you news, advice, and a look behind the curtain into the hobby board game industry. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Ignacy and Stephen.
Hello. This is the person who came up with the idea for the Board Games Insider many years ago. The one and the only, Ignacy Trzewiczek.
And Corey Thompson, the intern, the temp, the one who is not in the intro audio. Dice Tower News, Dice Tower Now, Above Board, and other stuff.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to special live episode 300 of Board Games Insider, and we are recording it. And we, wow.
Live.
And this is the end.
And we, wow, look at that. And we are recording this on December 30th, 2023. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And I would like to personally, and on behalf of the entire Board Games Insider podcast and all of you insiders listening and watching this podcast, wish Tom Vasel a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy and prosperous New Year. I'm taking the high road here to celebrate the 300th episode. What do you think about that, guys?
I don't believe it.
Beautiful.
At least for now. But as I mentioned on the last podcast, I promised all of our insiders that we would have a very special announcement today on episode 300 regarding the future of the podcast. Dun, dun, dun. So stay tuned. We will be getting to it very, very soon. Also, as I mentioned before we even started recording to those live here, we have created a poll, mostly for the live audience. So Paula is here with us. Paula, make sure you manage that. Make sure you see people, you know what you're doing. Just click on the poll and just watch the numbers go. And it's got a bunch of questions in there. Some are silly and some are serious. And we want to know from you about what you think. And this, of course, will be part of our playtesting question, which will go onto the guild on Board Game Geek for the other, hopefully, several hundred people that do listen and watch us. So, in the meantime, Ignacy, take us away. What's going on in Poland at Portal Games?
I believe nothing. It's a Christmas break. We are not working. We have a free time till the next week. So hopefully everyone at Portal Games is recharging, spending quality time with the family, playing board games, and for a while not thinking about the company and the work. In January, we'll start obviously the new year with all the new plans, new announcements, PortalCon, etc., etc. 2023, I think it was a good year for Portal Games. I will be discussing this, of course, at Portal Games vlog, but we released 11, which was very well received. We released 51st State, my new edition of my old game, and we did obviously Imperial Miners. So I think we are closing the year in a very, very good shape with happy faces, resting, recharging, and preparing for the next year. So I guess in the next episode, when we will be in the less Christmas mood, I talk business. I would talk about our new announcements, new games. We will bring in spoiler alert. Here today, we will bring more games from Polish designers. So I'm very proud that Portal Games is changing a little bit this direction, that now we are focusing on Polish designers and Polish designs. And I'm very proud to bring them to American audience. So this is happening. But now, nothing is happening.
But
besides playing games.
When is PortalCon? I always want to know that because it's always very interesting to see what you post.
Yes, PortalCon is the 20th of January. It is Saturday. It is a one-day event here in Poland. We are renting the stadium here in Chorzów, and we are doing seminars, keynotes. We are announcing new games for Polish market. We announced a couple of things for US market. We have special guests. We have all former employees, our special guests of the company, so lots of nice memories and hacks. A day that we wait here at Poland to happen.
And you said you rent a stadium yep. to do a stadium,
yes. Like a football stadium, yes.
And you really need to have like special guests there. So I wait for my invitation to PortalCon 2025, maybe. Okay. All right.
I got invited. You're not going?
There you go. All right. Enough of this craziness. Corey, what's going on with you?
Oh, it's been crazy. Travel. So I'm heading to Toronto for Daryl Andrews' design get-together in a couple days. Right now, though, I'm having a big party at the house. There's a whole bunch of designers and players here. Was playing games with Johnny Pack, Luke Laurie, Isaac Childress. There's a huge amount of people here. The first game we played, Imperial Miners, with all the designers.
Oh, thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
We had a fantastic time. So the big things going on here, probably people know the Dice Tower Now podcast is ending. It's all been announced. So the last episode of Dice Tower Now is going to be January 9th. I have no idea how I'm going to do it because I'm going to be at a party in Toronto, but that's when it's going to happen. And I've been filming with Above Board. We did our episode with, we did our YouTube video with Kevin Smith doing narration, which was really fun. He's an amazing guy. Had such a fun time hanging out with him. We did our special Christmas videos where I am not Santa Claus, even though every time I say I'm doing a Christmas video, people immediately go, "Oh, you're Santa Claus." Like, no. I'm Carl, Santa Claus's out of work brother. So those were really fun. So, and then when the new year comes up, there's going to be more filming, more excitement, more celebrities, more craziness coming out of Above Board. Coming up in January is going to be Board Games live on a volcano in Iceland.
The one that's erupting right now, by the way, right?
As one is wont to do.
After they played.
Yeah, we ruined it.
So glad that you got off that volcano before it actually started erupting, like in a big way.
It's a little bit of cheating. There's always a volcano erupting in Iceland. So
yeah, like Hawaii, there's always something bubbling. So very, very cool. And by the way, and again, I can't repeat this enough. Anybody who hasn't watched some of the Above Board stuff, it's just amazing. And I saw the Christmas thing, and yes, you played Santa's bad brother Carl. It was it was crazy. I loved every second of it.
Such a good time with it. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So over here at the Podfather of Gaming, I use the holiday downtime to drop a lot of content onto my channel. First of all the episodes are finally up there. I had been remiss. Marion will tell you, she was so angry at me, that I didn't drop episodes.
Remiss.
So many episodes. They're all up there now.
Sir.
You can catch all the episodes of the podcast to the current one. I did a whole bunch of Essenspiel videos, the running of the geeks. I put that up. Tours of Hall 3 and Hall 6. You can see that. And I put up this great Q&A session with the chairman of the board of the World Series of Board Gaming, John Hagmeyer, Tom Vassell, and myself. And we did a Q&A session of the entire, everything you wanted to know about the World Series of Board Gaming, but were afraid to ask. Check it out. At this point, the people listening, you can still get in on the early bird deal, which will be the best price you can possibly get. Code early bird. But anybody who's hearing this later in the recording will miss it because you have to sign up by January 1st. Tickets are running 3 times the rate of last year, so it's going really good. I'm going to be dropping a top 10 list for my first time I've ever going to do one on my channel. My top 10 games of 2023. I did it with the Dice Tower fairly recently when I was down there doing that video of the World Series. But maybe a couple things changed, and maybe I can show off the games as I do it. So I'll be showing that up. Check it out on my channel. Quick other things, no travel at the moment, as I mentioned, but in mid-January that all changes. Paula and I go down to New Orleans to see some friends and game for a week. And then on, January 22nd, we're going to fly directly from New Orleans to TantrumCon. I've never been there, but I was coerced, cajoled, mocked into coming by a whole bunch of people. And then finally I got and then I asked, they said, will you make me a special guest of honor? And they said, yes, of course we will. And of course, they stroked my ego enough to make me go down to or up to North Carolina. So I can't wait to do that. That should be a lot of fun. TantrumCon, end of January. If you're going to be there, please come by and say hello.
Oh, they're great guys.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, they're really good. The Tantrum House people are really cool people. And now, for the special announcement over at the Event Deck.
The Event Deck. Here's the latest news from the board game industry.
We have a very big announcement to make about the podcast moving forward. And, here it is. Board Games Insider is moving to Board Game Geek. We are now going to be powered by Board Game Geek. So we're leaving the Dice Tower network, and no harm, no foul to Tom and the Dice Tower. The only thing that you'll notice differently is that there'll be no more Tom jokes. It wouldn't be fair if we're still doing that. That was part of the whole being on the network. But Board Game Geek is welcoming us onto their Powered by Board Game Geek network. We'll be obviously being put onto the front page as we drop podcasts, so you'll be reminded if you see it there. More people will see it. So that's the whole thing, is just to get a bigger and bigger reach for the podcast. And with that actual message that I said right there, let's take a look at, where is he? I gotta find him. Where's mystery guest number 3? Mystery guest number 3. There he is.
I see
there
him.
he is. So, does anybody know who mystery guest number 3 is? Paul and KO knows. I see him raise his. Glenn knows. All right. So you're not much of a mystery guest number 3, because everybody knows your face because you're very famous from your videos on Board Game Geek. This is Lincoln Dammers. Lincoln, thank you for joining us. And I know it was a really quick, I just reached out yesterday, said, hey, you want to just come and be on the 300th episode? Because we're going to be announcing the big thing. So thank you. And just to mention a couple of other things, of course, that I've been doing with you. I have been doing The Quad, right? And that's going to be in its 8th episode pretty soon, where we take one topic in board gaming and we all defend the best game that's in that category or in that topic. So it's been going great. Candace Harris couldn't be here. She's part of the show. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I can't wait to continue doing that with you and to increase, my relationship with Board Game Geek, which has been obviously the most important board gaming site on the internet. So thank you for all that hard work. Let's go to mystery guest number 2, since I'm going in opposite order here. So mystery guest number 2, don't unmute or don't talk yet. But does anybody know who mystery guest number 2 is? Say something. Raise your hand if you know who that is. Okay, nobody knows. Good. That's good. So mystery guest number 2, I'm going to say this. It's not Tom Vassell, but I mention his name on every podcast. Who is it? Anybody? So this is, as you probably can tell from that beautiful voice, Ray Greenlee, who has been doing our voiceovers since, I don't know, I'm probably going to be saying, probably since maybe right at the beginning. But I mean, I think the first 10 episodes, where, by the way, Tom did say we would never make it to 10, we might not have had any kind of bumpers. We might have just been doing like test episodes. But right, he joined immediately to do that. And thank you, Ray, because you do have a great voice. We appreciate you doing that. New ones coming. That will, no, they won't be put into this one, but they'll be put into the 301 when we start with Board Game Geek, and Corey's name might actually be announced, which is kind of nice as well.
I'm not going to know what to do with that.
Mystery guest number 1, why don't you start some video, and I want to ask people if they know who you are. And there he is. So mystery guest number 1, does anybody know who that is? Say something. My hint is, again, it's not Tom Vassell, but I mention his name on every podcast. Who is it? And he's showing his hat off, Tabletop Submarine. Very good. So that's Joshua Bowman. Joshua is our editor. Joshua, thank you very much for the great hard work of putting together this podcast.
I need to apologize that almost every week I send Joshua an apology of something that isn't quite right.
I never apologize because I just turn over perfect audio. It might be overmodulated. It probably has got too many miscues.
You need some real equipment. Come on. You need like the road packs and all the good stuff.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Thank you, Joshua, for joining. Thanks for the great work in doing our editing. This one's going to be a fun one because you're going to have the audience segment to also put in there, but we'll talk about that later. Let's get over to strategy and tactics.
Strategy and tactics. Some advice for you from Board Games Insider.
Okay, as I mentioned at the top, we're going to take questions directly from you guys. We want, we're live here with you, the people. And how many people do we have here? I mean, it's close to 50. There's 2 full pages of people on my Zoom screen. So I don't know, maybe between 40-ish people. Anybody here, you can either do it via unmuting yourself and asking the question, or do it in the chat, and Paula can let me know what's there.
When 40 people will unmute themselves, it may be dangerous. So I would suggest chat or hands up.
Okay, Greg Senko raised his hand. So Greg, what do you got? Okay, Stephen Bonacore here. I have to ask Greg's question for him. So Greg's question was something to the effect, Corey, now that Dice Tower Now is ending, will you still give us news about new game releases on Board Games Insider?
It's always been a balance for me. Most of the news that I was doing for Dice Tower was things like game announcements, new games coming out. So I won't be able to help it. I'll be putting news into BGI all the time, but it'll be more industry focused. However, if there's a new game announcement that I think is ridiculously fun and exciting, like this week, I think the announcement of Tiny Epic Game of Thrones is kind of a ridiculous announcement.
That is ridiculous. We have to report
Stephen
on that.
doesn't know because he relies on me.
No, and Greg, first of all, it's a great question. Like, so without
We've
Corey,
talked about it a lot, yeah.
Without Corey, we would have a lot less news. He's actually, over the last period of time that he's been here, he's been adding a lot of the news stories. Ignacy's busy. I'm just lazy.
Blissfully unaware, I think is the phrase.
And blissfully unaware. So Corey throws some really good stories that he picks from various sources that I don't normally see. So thank you, Corey, for doing that. And Greg, great question. Anybody else? I think mystery guest 2 has raised their hand. So mystery guest number 2, who as stated before, was Ray Greenlee, our wonderful voiceover man. His question was something to the effect, what is the state of the hobby game market going into 2024? Do you see it getting stronger again, since 2022 and especially 2023 were weaker years as we reported? Very good question.
That is a great question, and of course we need like 2 hours to answer the question. And so first of all, what you said is absolutely true. We had a huge growth of the sales during the pandemic, and now we have like things balancing out, and the sales of the whole industry go slower. Of course, I'm much stronger here in Poland, so I can talk much more about Polish market, because here I'm one of the main players in the industry. In America, I'm just a small independent publisher. We decided to release less games. We decided to be very careful with print runs. We decided to not take risky decisions. So for some games that we would publish them for Polish market 2 or 3 years ago, for 2024 or 2025, we decided we will pass. We appreciate the game, we love the game, but for some reasons, we are afraid to risk money and print 2,000 copies of the game for Polish market. So I don't know how about other publishers, but my guess is that they're working like me, and that means we are taking much more cautious decisions and concerned about the future, because as I said, the pandemic was great sales, and now it's very, very difficult. And with the inflation, with the war in Europe, with all the different things, bottom line, there are titles that Portal Games would publish for Polish market 3 years ago, and now we are saying no, they will not be published because we are afraid. This is a short answer, and this is a great topic for like a whole episode of Board Game Insider, and how the market changes. It's very difficult to navigate these days, and I mentioned this many times in the podcast. On top of the things that are happening in the world and in the industry in general, we have to navigate with the big gorillas like Asmodee, like these big companies, and then these smaller independent publishers have to try to navigate in these areas. So difficult time. Everybody is very, very concerned about the future.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll add into that I believe we're going to unfortunately see a continuation in the slowdown or decline, but this is not like because there's this big thing happening. There's just so much product out there that no individual company is able to grow at the rate that they were growing. So until there's a bit of a shakeout, I think we're going to see that. And you're also going to see some companies are going to go by the wayside. They're just going to have to. You can't make money selling 500 units of a game or 1,000 units. It's just not a sustainable business model. It's a hobby that you can throw things out there, but you're not going to be able to do much with your company when you're printing so few games. So sure, there'll be plenty of companies that'll continue to do things like that. Some are going to go away, but we're not going to see it all shake out for a little while. It's going to be years of general industry stagnation, in my opinion. But overall, you're still going to see lots of great games coming out, as we did. As I had to try to pick my top 10 games this year out of the 20-something new games I played. I'm like, these are all great. So you're still going to see great games.
But as I said, I don't want to change the whole discussion about this question. It is a great question, but just for the example, because publishers are now much more cautious about the print runs and number of releases, so they are making a print runs a little bit smaller. Like print runs today are smaller than 5 years ago. That's a fact. Printers are smaller. If the game is successful, it is sold out. And now, once again, publishers are concerned about the reprints. Steven can say from his, as he was remembering when he was publishing, reprint is a risky thing because you have to wait for the reprint. You have to wait for the ship to come to America, and this 6 months later, maybe there's no more hype for the game. So you see games printed in the smaller print runs, and you see some of the games not reprinted, even if they are successful. So it is a difficult time for everyone. You gamers trying to hunt down games, us publishers trying to make money, and the best will survive.
Let me take something from the chat that Paula sent me. Glenn, I see your hand, but let me go over the chat for a second. Ann W. who's here in the chat. And thank you, Anne, a lovely person. She was at my house about 2 weeks ago playing games. It was wonderful. She asked, now that 2023 is a wrap, how does this year's publications, releases compare? Any prediction for big evergreens, or at least games we'll still be talking about in 5 to 10 years? Corey, I mean, do you have any games that you say, we're going to be talking about this game for a really long time? It's not like, oh, wait, it's a great game. Plenty of those came out. But games that we're going to be talking about in 5, 10 years, that's an evergreen. That's a game that's going to be a hit.
Well, I definitely think Ark Nova is in that evergreen category, but I think I might be cheating
that wasn't
a little
it.
bit.
That's not this year. No, can't do that one.
Oh, I can't do that one
This year. All right, I'll go.
I think the new Terra Mystica Age of Innovation is going to be talked about.
Age of Innovation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What one do you have?
I mean, my number one game of the... I'm cheating, and I'm going to be telling people. Like, I'm giving it away.
You're just saying what your favorite game is.
It is my favorite game, but I mean, it's going to be there for... I think it's going to be there for... There it is, and there's Andy. He knows. He just showed it off. It's Thunder Road Vendetta. I just think it's stupid, silly fun. You can pull it off the shelf and play it with almost anyone in its base format. It gets a little more complicated when you're playing with all the expansions, but I think it's going to be there forever because it's just silly fun. And at Tantrum Con, I'm playing it 3 times at 9 o'clock in the morning each day with fans. They put me on. I said, I'll take the morning slot. What do you want? I said, I'll just play this game, play it 3 times. So, good question. That's always hard. Ignacy, you have anything you think is come to your mind about like something that's going to be big in 5 or 10 years from now?
Once again, I can talk about what we are doing here in Poland for Polish market. So on Polish market, we saw, for instance, a huge demand for the game Hegemony. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I see it has some buzz in English edition as well. I don't know if this game will get many reprints because it's a very unique. It's asymmetric.
It's a very niche game.
Yes, but
it has a very loyal following.
Yeah, but what we saw with the Root asymmetric game about the cute animals and is now major bestseller. I don't know. For us here in Poland, Hegemony was a massive hit. And we are doing reprints. We have huge hopes for this game for the upcoming 2 or 3 years. But in general, once again, sorry to be a Slavic person in this podcast, no reprints. Move on to the next title.
I'll take Glenn.
Yeah.
Let me take Glenn's question since his hand has been nicely raised. Go ahead, Glenn. What's up? And Glenn's question was: Ignacy talks about storytelling a lot. Is storytelling more important than mechanics? How do you build in a hook to the game that makes people want to play it and have a good story behind it?
Yeah. So the brutal truth about the market is that I have to sell the game. If I sell the game and if you play the game, then you will have a fun. If I don't have this marketing hook, if I don't have the story to talk about the game, you will not even buy the game, and you will buy a different game, and you will not discover what's in the game. So without the marketing hook, without something that I can sell on the spot in these few seconds, because there's so less attention these days than in the previous years, I need to have a hook. I need to have something that make you consider buying the game, and then you will discover the game is good or not. With Imperial Miners, we were talking that it is a engine building game that plays in 45 minutes. And you say, oh, so I'm building my engine, I'm building my cars, I'm building my combos, but I can play it in 40 minutes. There's a hook, there's something interesting, let me try it. And for every game I'm signing, I need to have this one sentence that sells the game. If I sell the game, I'm okay, and then you will discover the game is beautiful and interesting.
Yeah, the best game in the world won't be a million seller if nobody picks it up and plays it the first time.
And that's the principle of the fact that there are so many excellent games that come out, and since there's so much of this haze of games, you only hear about the ones that start getting people buying it. And there could be this great game from this small publisher that did the 500,000 print run. They have no marketing. They have no way of getting it out there. So we don't hear about it. It just goes away.
My biggest game of the last decade, Detective, which sold like crazy. But the pitch was very simple. It is a detective game in which you are looking for the real life facts. You are literally going to Google and trying to solve the mystery because it is set in the real life. And so many people were, well, I'm using Google Maps to solve the case. I'm using Google to solve the case. I want to try it. And then people discovered that this has a beautiful story, super interesting, that it is a very good game. But the pitch was you will actually use Google Maps to solve the freaking case. And people wanted to check it.
Excellent. I'm going to take another one from the chat that Paula sent me. It's from Luke. Question for the original hosts who were told the podcast wouldn't make it past 10 episodes. We surely were. What vision or plans do you have for the podcast in years to come? I don't know. I mean, I'll add Corey right into that question too, though. I mean, what changes do we make? I mean, I think we really came up to a really interesting format right now. I don't have anything in my head because I think we now encapsulate everything. What's happening within our companies or personal lives? I do a lot of that, of course. We talk about the events, right? We make you guys insiders to the extent that we can. We ask you questions. You ask us questions in strategy and tactics. We ask you questions in playtesting. So I think we've got basically everything. If there's anything that somebody else knows about that we could add or change, we'd love to hear it. Maybe we'll pose that.
Oscar-style music send-off mute button for Steven. That's my change for the upcoming year.
Get Steven to talk less? Okay, maybe we can work on that. Thank you, Luke. What else we have? Matt Morley, actually, he added to Ray's question, will the big conventions become bigger and even more relevant for companies, or will the impact of conventions actually decline? Anybody want to take that one? Ignacy, Corey?
I want to confirm what Ray said before. So indeed, in Poland as well, the sales on the conventions were insane. People are going to convention to buy games. Like this is the change in the approach. We as the publishers appreciate that. So on most of the conventions here in Poland, we had record sales. So this is good. On the other hand, conventions cost more and more and more and more money. Yeah. So this is like this balancing act to which conventions you go, how big booths you want to make. And then as the conventions announce the success, like Gen Con says, or and they had 1,000 publishers or 800 publishers, this is great for you, customers. But then we publishers have to compete with the other 800 publishers for the game. So the conventions will always will be very important for the publishers, but
I really wonder if we're still in a backlash after the pandemic, because the Gen Con that happened right after the pandemic was a record-breaking sales convention. Even though attendance numbers were low, people want to buy and want to attend very, very much. And I think that's actually declining a little bit as conventions are becoming more mainstream, as we're trying to forget about pandemic.
There you go. I have a great question here that's now going to involve a couple of the people in this that are watching right now. And the question is from Kevin C. He says, speaking of game companies, Steven and others, tell us about your new venture with Zev Schlosinger. Now, we happen to have a few of the investors on this call right now, and I'm going to call them out. I hope it's okay. May I call? Yes, you guys are in the press release, so I can call you out. Scott Brady, noted designer, is here. He's one of the investors. Scott, you're muted. If you want to say something. And I saw Jeff Anderson. There he is. Jeff Anderson, who is also from BGG. He runs BGG Con and BGG at Sea, and he runs the Podfather gaming cruise. That's awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Scott Brady. Scott, and I want to point this out. I mentioned this on the last podcast, that the entire idea to create this company was not really from Zev. It was from Scott and Nicole Brady, who then talked to Zev, who then started talking to other people, and so on and so on. And somehow at Gen Con, I got involved. And by the way, just to wrap this entire piece up, Corey is, of course, also an investor, as I am. I think that's everybody that's on here that are investors. I don't think any more of them showed up. But thank you all. It was great, and it's a great question. Let's take one more. Andy Walters, by the way, says that he thinks the format is great. Oh, I want to recognize one VIP that showed up a little while ago, and that's Uli Blenneman, who is from the company Spielworxx, strategic partner of Stronghold Games for many years.
Yeah.
He is Spielworxx. And Uli, I'm going to ask you to unmute just to say hello to everybody. Because, I mean, not only was he a partner of mine, he's just a great guy and an amazing publisher out in Germany. So, Uli, you're there, right? You want to say hi? Just wave or something? Unmute? There you go. So Uli Blenneman of Spielworxx is such a great guy. He said all these very complimentary things about me and about the podcast. But right at the end, Uli insisted that Corey Thompson be promoted to a full-time host and not just be considered an intern any longer. What do you think about that? But by a show of hands, who votes that Corey should remain an intern forever?
Thank you.
Okay, who wants Corey to be promoted to full-time host? I think that won by a little bit, but I'm still calling him an intern. But he's got to make the coffee. Well, thank you. Thank you, Uli. And if anybody does have to leave, of course, just go ahead, Uli. But not Ignacy. You have to stay for another 10, 15 minutes maximum. Okay. So,
But this is a good question. How many people we have here from Europe?
Oh, yeah. How many people? Say it or raise your hand or something. Uli, Ignacy, Mary, of course. Anybody else? Oh, Kurt. Kurt is definitely a Vitruvian
Mike.
gamer. Not bad. We got a decent number of Europeans here. Not bad.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Let's now move over to playtesting.
Playtesting, where Ignacy and Steven ask you questions.
Last week, we asked everybody, what's the oldest by creation date hobby board game that you have played? And we said no cheating with Monopoly or chess or Parcheesi. It has to be a non-mass market hobby type.
And I know everybody's going to have to do spirit of the question. Don't loophole letter of the law this thing, because I know
you're the one who added all these caveats here. So what?
So
Corey, did you? I'll pick out a few, and Gavin was the first one that answered, and he said Acquire, which was which ended up to be my answer too. I think Acquire still stands up to this day as being just a phenomenal game. Certainly a hobby game. In the earliest portions of the hobby in 1960s, when all of a sudden these kind of bigger games started showing up in those like Avalon Hill boxes and 3M boxes and things
there
like that.
There were a lot of votes for Acquire, but the one that really warmed the cockles of my heart, Kirk W. brought up They've Invaded Pleasantville. Oh, this was a TSR clamshell game in the early 80s that you had to cut out the little chits, and it was aliens invading a small town. And I loved this game. This was the greatest game ever, and this is a big piece of nostalgia to have it brought up again.
That's a pretty interesting one. I've never even heard of that one. Wow. We got some Crokinole, obviously, and while that is a game from 1876, it certainly now has still being played. I have my Crokinole board hanging on my wall there. I played it at the World Series of Board Gaming. There was like mini tournaments there to play. It was a lot of fun.
Attended the Crokinole National Championships in Canada.
Did you really? Oh, is that going to be an episode?
I think so. I think it's in editing and figuring out what to do with it. But yes, we went.
Some people in real time here are saying like Can't Stop is theirs. June, thank you for that one.
That's a great one.
Absolutely.
And Skip Bow. I saw Skip Bow show up on here from Ron Roy. I never considered Skip Bow being that. It's from 1967. That's a great one.
Very, very cool. Thank you, everybody who did answer that. I want to point out for everybody who's here that they can now answer our poll question, which we put a poll up in the Zoom. If you go to more in your link about on the bottom there, and you click on polls, you can answer the poll. There's 6 questions. Some of them are silly. Some of them are good. We're not going to talk about the answers because they'll also be posted on the Guild, and I'll mention how you guys voted later on when we do that. But answer that if you get a chance between now and the end of the episode. That poll will remain up until at least after the episode. And the question, I'll mention the questions because we always do mention what the questions are. And the questions are as follows. What is your favorite segment of Board Games Insider? And I mentioned all essentially 6 segments of Board Games Insider. Who is your favorite host of Board Games Insider? Of course, that will be C, Steven. That's your correct answer.
C stands for Corey, by the way.
I did not do that. I put you second. And I said, since we won't be mocking Tom Vassal anymore, who should we mock going forward? So you have a list of different people there that you can pick. I
think that one is Steven for sure.
I am a choice, as the 3 of us are. What is your preferred means of consuming Board Games Insider? Audio, video on the Podfather of Gaming channel, both. Maybe some people watch both. Sometimes audio, sometimes video, or neither. I just interact on the Guild. That's going to be one. Over time, have you changed from being an audio listener to a video listener? Change this way, that way. I have all the different permutations. A true-false question. Which is better, beer or cookies? I'll help you there. That's true. Beer is better than cookies. So please know that.
No.
And this is 2 bonus questions, but these questions are only to Ignacy and Corey. And those questions are, as I bring it back up here, do you guys know, or maybe even the audience, we'll take it from the audience as well, like in real time, when did we record the first episode of Board Games Insider? Month and year. I think I have the day as well, because I went back into emails to find this. But does anybody know the date of the first Board Games Insider episode number 1? Anybody know? Just raise your hand.
I would guess. Okay. I would guess January-ish 2015.
Anybody else want to take a guess?
1862.
1862 is not right, amazingly enough. So Board Games Insider, the first episode, Ignacy, was recorded on February 22nd, 2015. And it was Ignacy's idea to do this. We met at Board Game Geek Con just a few months before that. And to get it all together, we waited until February, the end of February, to record our first episode. I got to thank Ignacy for bringing this to actual his vision coming out there in the end. That was great. And when did Corey first join Board Games Insider? Episode number and also the month and year.
I would say it would be like late February 2023.
I think it's been about a year.
It's February 2023, and it was episode 262, maybe 263. But when I did the research, I wrote both of those down. So Corey's been on for almost a year now.
There you go.
We don't like him. We don't like him anymore at all. But he's been here for a year, and he has not made me coffee yet. So
it's definitely a Dread Pirate Roberts situation. Every episode's like, we'll most likely fire you tomorrow.
There you go. So everybody out there who's actually listening live with us, please do answer the poll with those 6 questions, some funny, some serious, and please do that. And meanwhile, I will later on, Ignacy, don't worry, sit back, relax, you're going to bed soon. I will put this into the Guild on BGG as well and find out what the answers are from all of the people in the Guild. And in the meantime, you have to listen to me do it live. Here's the final scoring.
Final scoring. How to stay in touch with and up to date on Ignacy and Steven.
Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts. Or you can now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of this podcast? You can ask us questions for strategy and tactics by posting them in the correct thread in our Guild on Board Game Geek. And also answer our question to you from our play testing segment by going to the Guild on Board Game Geek and looking for this thread with the episode's question. Check out our websites, which are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com, and play2zgames.com. We're all over social media, so interact with us, please. On Facebook, please like our pages, /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. Speak directly to Corey, Steven, and Ignacy on X, or Twitter, and Instagram. It's at PortalGamesUS, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish, and the active YouTube channels are Portal Games Movies, The Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. On TikTok, Ignacy's still dancing. It is Portal Games US. We'd love to see you in an upcoming convention. I'll be at Tantrum Con, as I mentioned, but we're in the convention low season now. So when you do show up at a convention this year, make sure you come up to us, say hello. We do live to talk to you and meet all of you out there. Board Games Insider was professionally edited by Joshua Bowman, mystery guest number 1 from Tabletop Submarine. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, reach out to him to discuss at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that great voice you hear doing the intro, outro, and in between segments is that of mystery guest number 2, Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Ignacy, Corey, do you have anything last minute to say to everybody here?
No.
Is anyone using the name X in America?
Not really.
Everybody mentions it and then says what we really mean is Twitter.
Yeah, they say both things at the same time.
So I have a nice little anecdote that's very last minute that just basically says how ridiculous Corey is. One of the members of our audience had pointed out to me that local to me there is a magazine that was giving away enormous metal archival storage shelves, the big rolling library bookshelves that can smash against each other for dense storage. Short story, it ended up being a bidding war between myself and a museum. And it looks like Barry has acquired archival storage shelves for my house.
You are literally out of control. Completely out of control.
I agree. Completely.
Oh my god.
Everybody out there, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the 8 years. Is that right? 8+ years of doing this? It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Feels like just
you're all
a
the best.
year to
9 years almost. Feels like only a year to Corey, but
just
thank
by.
you all. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye,
Thanks, everybody.
Wave, everybody, wave. Bye.
Yay.
Thank you for listening to Board Games Insider with Ignacy Cevicek and Steven Bonacore. Board Games Insider has been made possible by you, our listeners and hobby board game enthusiasts. Ignacy and Steven thank you greatly for your support of the hobby board game industry. Follow both Portal Games and the Podfather of Gaming on Twitter. Sign up for their newsletters on their websites, portalgamesus.com and podfathergaming.com, and like both them and Board Games Insider on Facebook. Please join us next time on Board Games Insider.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network, the home of smart people, insightful board gaming commentary, and Ignacy Cevicek. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com.